floorboards and the carpet, and then you get mold in places that you didn't have it before, and there's just a lot that can go on with water. It's amazing.
Welcome to CREPN Radio for influential commercial real estate professionals who work with investors, buyers, and sellers of commercial real estate coast to coast. Whether you're an investor, broker, lender, property manager, attorney, or accountant, we're here to learn from the experts.
Welcome to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network CREPN Radio. This is episode number 80. Weekly, we share conversations with commercial real estate investors and professionals who provide insight and knowledge to help investors grow their real estate portfolio. Whether you're a veteran investor or you've been thinking about investing, we're here to help, and we're glad you're here. My name is J. Darren Gross. Thanks for joining us today. In just a minute, we're going to speak with Marla Rockhill with Servpro. Servpro is a nationwide disaster restoration contractor that specializes in putting your property back to pre-loss condition after you have an event, fire, flood, storm damage, etc. Marla brought a gift, and this is a real gem. I looked at it before and I didn't recognize exactly what it was. So I want to make certain that you understand what it is, and I encourage everyone to download it because it's a real tool that, whether it's for your business or for your home or your property, it provides you the roadmap. It lists all the information you need in case of an emergency, and all you have to do is download it, fill it in, and voila, you have your facility emergency plan. Being prepared will help you minimize your downtime and also any loss of profit. So go ahead and download that. We get into that and a whole lot more. But first, if you're listening to us on iTunes, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. When you subscribe, you can listen to the program anytime and wherever you choose. All right, let's get on to the show. On the line this morning, we're fortunate to have my guest is Marla Rockhill. Marla is a representative with Servpro. Servpro is a disaster restoration company. And for those of you that own property or invest in property, there's probably going to be a day when you're going to need to know somebody like Marla or Servpro. And so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to, in light of the season, of all the record rain and snowfall we've had, to have Marla on the program. So, Marla, are you there?
I am. Thank you, Darren.
Well, glad to hear your voice, and thanks for doing this morning.
Oh, of course.
I'm looking forward to talking to you a little bit about what you guys do at Servpro and just some steps that people can take to be prepared for a disaster. Mm-hmm. And before we do that, do you mind sharing with the listeners a little bit about you and your background at Servpro?
Well, we're in Servpro, Southwest Portland. We can do work anywhere in Portland. There are a few franchises out here. We feel that we do quality work. And my role here at Servpro is a marketer, and I go around to businesses and churches and construction companies and let them know the services that we offer. What we do is we mostly do emergency services. If they have say an ice dam on their house, or a tree crashes through their roof, or they have a pipe burst, we can clean those messes up. And we have a policy here at Servpro. It's a 1-4-8 guarantee, where if someone calls us, we will call them back within an hour. We will be on site within 4 hours, and by 8 hours we will have an estimate or an idea of what's going on. Here in Southwest Portland, we prefer to have the 15-minute rule. When someone calls us, when they call the office, our crew chief and general manager have 15 minutes to call the client back and let them know when they can be out there to take a look at that. And then what we do is we go out to the house and we kind of scope the work and take some measurements and give them an idea what it's going to cost. Sometimes it's small enough they don't even need to turn into their insurance if it's going to be less than their homeowner's deductible. So we can let them know that too. So that's pretty much what we do. And then we come back and get everything ready and make arrangements with the homeowner and get them back to the way it was, like it never happened.
Well, that's always the goal, is get it back like it never happened, right?
Yep, that's our goal.
Right. Just for our listeners, Servpro is a nationwide brand, is it not?
They are. They're nationwide. Uh-huh.
Okay. And so if anybody, and I also want to point out, Marla has made available a handout here, and there's a hyperlink in the show notes there you can be sure to download. It gives you some tips on prevention and what to do in case of an emergency. So please check that out. Go ahead and download that, and have that at your ready or something to review. Try and make sure that you're prepared in the event of an emergency on what to do. So you kind of gave an overview there of the goals in your agency and response time. I'm kind of curious, and maybe what we do is kind of back up to before the disaster, because I kind of think that's kind of where we're at right now. Is kind of a more of a need for a relationship, for these types of things. Can you speak a little bit about what you guys, if somebody were to contact you, or like on one of your calls when you go out and meet with a property owner, some of the things that you like to point out and make them aware of in order to be prepared for the the event.
Of course. So what we like to do when I go out to all my clients, especially the commercial ones and even residential, is I like to show them our emergency ready profile. What it is we will come to your business, whether it's like a business or apartment building or a manufacturing plant or whatever, and we'll kind of scope the business out, because if there is a disaster, sometimes as many as 50% of businesses will close down following a disaster because they weren't ready and they weren't prepared. And what we do is we bring this emergency ready profile in, and we scope the building out. We find your water shut off, your gas shut off, your emergency exits. We take pictures of everything, and then we get all your emergency telephone numbers, who to contact. What if someone's on site and there's an emergency? I mean, who do they call? We give them the police phone numbers, the fire department phone numbers, the hospital, the property manager, the on-site manager, all of this information. And we get it ready, and we leave it in a binder so that it's always on the site. For example, I can think of an apartment building that we are getting ready to do one in. So say the apartment manager's on, and one of the residents there floods her apartment. And what do? They need to know where to shut the water off, who to call. And if they call their manager, for example, this is also available in an app for your phone. And so she can call her manager, he can bring it up on his phone, and he knows exactly what to do from a distance also. We want everybody to be ready so that they don't have to close down close down their business after a disaster. We want everybody to stay in business, and by doing that, by being prepared, it's a whole lot easier for people to stay in business. So.
Sure. Now, you mentioned your app. Is that a Servpro app that you have?
Mm-hmm. What we do is we come back to the office and we complete your profile. We put it all into the computer, and then it's in the Emergency Ready app, and then I'll email you a link, and you just download it to your smartphone, and you can bring it up at any time. If you can bring it up, and you can even change information in it if you want later on. Say your manager changes, or you don't want to use St. Vincent's Hospital, you want to use OHSU, you can change any numbers you want in there. And the biggest thing about these is we don't charge for doing these. We come out as a free service on behalf of the insurance agents, or just as a service to you. We don't expect you to use us just because we do these, although we would like the business. But it's more just a free service so people are prepared in case of an emergency.
Got it. So when you go out and you kind of map the property and stuff, do you also then kind of make recommendations on what to do in the event of emergency, or is it more of just kind of a snapshot picture of what is?
It's kind of a snapshot picture, but what we do is we sit down with the manager and say, okay, if you had to evacuate your whole apartment building, where do you want them to go? And so those notes are always in the app as well, so that if a new manager comes in, they're going to know the emergency plan. Some of the buildings have evacuation plans. We take pictures of those. We put them in the app. We take pictures of every single thing we can, your shut-off valves, where they are, what street they might happen to be by. Your air conditioning unit might be on the roof. We've got all that information in there. And then they can just bring it up on their app and look at the pictures and kind of go from there. So we get the evacuation plans in there with the notes, and we take the pictures, and we write down who's in charge, who's your on-site manager, and all of that.
Gotcha. So you've gone out and you've done the assessment of the property. You've introduced yourself. You've got an app if they choose to download that. And they have the contact information. So what kind of events are likely to happen when somebody would need your services?
We do water damages. We've had trees fall through roofs. We've had ice dams. Ice dams can back up and go into the house. Your crawl space, the walls in your crawl space can leak. The water can come up to the bottom. We do crawl spaces. We do fire and soot removal. If you have a fire in your home, we can clean everything back to normal. And we do water and dehumidification. We do mold mitigation. If you have mold in your house, we can get rid of that. We also have the resources in a catastrophe to bring in other large loss units that can help us. For example, when Portland had their ice storm here a month or two ago, Servpro was on notice that if we need them, they would be here within so many hours. Luckily, we didn't have any huge catastrophes, but we do have those options out there. We also do move-outs and contents restoration. We can clean out your electronics and equipment, document drying. So there's just all sorts of stuff we do. A lot of cleaning. We do biohazard, crime scene, and vandalism cleanup. We can clean your air ducts, your walls, your furniture, deodorization. If you've got a smell in your home that might be from a critter or whatever, we can come in and bring our ozone machine in, and it'll take out all the smells in your house. So
I'm guessing a lot of landlords would find that valuable for the vacating tenant.
They do. Yep.
Got it. Hey, let's back up here just 1 second. So I think kind of a list of services you guys kind of do and what you're responding to. But I think one of the things I'd like to get into, if we could, real quick, is just kind of that first. You mentioned the 148 period, because I think what I find as an insurance broker is that most often customers, they don't have situations that happen. And that's a good thing, and that they don't have a problem. They also, the consequences are they don't really understand how it all works.
Right.
And so could you walk us through kind of I don't know if you've got a most recent emergency that you guys would have attended to, but just from the I guess the point of injury to where you guys get involved, and those first hours, from taking the call to showing up, kind of securing the site. Can you walk us through that a little bit?
So if someone calls us, like for a water damage, for example, we will call them. We like to do it within 15 minutes, and we'll call to make a time to go out there. And sometimes they've already cleaned up the water, but let's pretend they haven't. So then we'll go out there with our equipment. We have it always in our trucks, and we'll go out there and kind of scope it out and tell them, okay, this is what we're going to do, so that the homeowner knows everything that's going on. And then we tell them what we're going to do. We show it on paper. We show them how much it's going to cost. And so they can decide whether or not to turn it into their insurance company. And then we make arrangements to get started on the work. If they're in standing water, we start right away. If it's a case where maybe their crawl space is flooded, it's not a true emergency, we can wait a day or two. It just depends on what the homeowner wants to do. And then I lost my train of thought. So then we get the water out, and then we set up our air movers, and we have in the technology, it tells us how many air movers to leave on the property, and then we monitor that every 24 hours or 12 hours. If it's a big loss, we'll do it every 12 hours. We'll go out and monitor and check the air movers, and sometimes as it's drying, we can remove some. And then the biggest thing is we will get a claim number from the insurance company, but this is all done with the homeowner. The homeowner is the one in charge of everything. We call them. We never show up without them knowing. They're in charge. We just kind of bill the insurance company. It's really the only contact we have with the insurance company on that. So,
and speaking to that, I think it's important for the listeners to understand is the relationship between the parties. And I know you can't, speak to whether or not something's covered or not. I think in the case of fire, it's pretty certain that fire insurance is going to cover a fire. Mm-hmm. I know sometimes with water, if it's coming from the outside and it's flood, there may not be. If you don't have flood insurance, you may not have insurance, but you would still have the need for the situation to be cleaned up.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about that interaction with you guys and the relationship between you, the customer, and again, how you guys work with the insurance company?
So if I'm understanding what you're asking, so what we do is we go out there. If someone calls our office, whether it's the client or the insurance agent, it doesn't really matter. They can either call. We'll be on site within 4 hours, hopefully sooner, but within 4 hours, and we talk one-on-one with the homeowner. And we tell them how much it's going to cost, and they know what their deductible is. They can find that information. And then sometimes, they'll have so much coverage, but the bill might be more than that. That doesn't happen very often, but then the homeowner would be responsible for that. We do bill the insurance company for them, and then the insurance company will send the check to the homeowner, and the homeowner is responsible for paying us. So, but again, I just wanted to say that everything that's done in the home or the business or whatever is with the homeowner or the manager or the business owner or whatever. It's not. We don't work for the insurance company. We work for the homeowner.
Right, and I think that's what I was hoping to try and reiterate here is that I think many times the policy owner or the property owner that has an insurance policy has a sense that the insurance company is sending out their people, or that the insurance company has a cleaning crew or disaster restoration crew on staff that's going to race out and do this. And again, it goes back to that relationship between the policyholder and the insurance company. That's basically the contract to agree to provide the funding, but the actual work is going to be done by a company like Servpro or whoever they choose. And
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the funds then go from the insurance company to the property owner, the insurance policy owner, and then those funds then go to whether it be Servpro or whoever they've contracted with, so that you're not left out. I mean, the policy owner, the property owner, is not able to just turn their head and just pass it off to the insurance company, and they do have to be involved and communicate with everybody.
And the only reason the insurance company would recommend us is because they know our work. What they do is if someone calls for an emergency, and if you have an emergency, it is not a good time in your life, and you can't even think straight. And so you call your insurance company, and they're going to recommend to you people that they trust, and that's why we get a lot of insurance referrals. That doesn't mean we work for the insurance company. We're working for the homeowner in the end, and they're the ones that are going to make the decisions on what's done and that.
Right. Well, and again, just the that reiteration there of the relationship. So let's talk now that you've got the call. You guys have gone and shown up. You've communicated, kind of said about a plan. Can you give any kind of an idea on time it takes to resolve an issue? I mean, obviously it's going to vary based on the degree of damage that's happened. And obviously I always tell my clients insurance works, but always pray that you don't have to use it because you got a problem.
Right.
But if you do have a problem, can you kind of give us an example? Again, I don't mean to say this is the way it always works, but give us kind of the time and the put back together time.
And again, like you said, it depends on the level of damage. If you've got standing water, and we take out we get rid of all the water down there and then put our air movers and our dehumidifiers down there. Sometimes it could be a couple of days. Sometimes it's, might be 3 or 4 days. It's usually not very long, typically. If there's an example where you have a tree fall through your roof, which you've had those, what we'll do is we'll come in and we will take down the ceiling, and we'll get everything ready so that the construction crew can then do the work. We'll tarp your ceiling, and that obviously will take longer, but I think in a normal water situation, I would think 3 to 4 days is more than plenty.
To get it kind of cleaned up and dried out and put back together.
Water out and put the air movers and the dehumidifiers. And they can give you an idea when they come there. They'll tell you about how long it's going to take and how much equipment they're going to put in your house. And everything before anything is done. And then as we go through the work, you'll know when we're going to come back to monitor your equipment, and you're going to know everything before we don't just show up at your house. So.
Right. Let me ask you, as far as the type of disasters you guys show up to, is there a ranking as far as the most damaging that you guys typically run into? I mean, fire, water, I don't know, is there?
They can all be damaging. Of course, fire just destroys everything immediately, but it just depends on the damage. We recently had a commercial loss where there was an empty building that used to house, I think it was an audio store of some kind, and it happened to be empty at the time, and their water fountain burst. No one knew it for like 3 days, and so they had pouring water gushing into this building for 3 days, and on that type of a loss, the carpet is soaked and everything underneath is soaked, and it goes up the sheetrock, and so it just depends on what the damage is. There's really not any levels. That happened to be one of our most catastrophic because the water went up the sheetrock and we had to cut it back, and but then there's fires, and we go in and clean that up and get people boarded up so that no further damage is done, no looters can get in. So I'm not sure if that's what you were asking, or... No,
I think just kind of as a general reflection there as to, I know fire is clearly a damage. I mean, if you have a big fire, you got a big problem. I'm just always amazed at how much damage water causes. Like you were,
a lot of damage.
Yeah, like you were mentioning, the unforeseen, the unknown ongoing water fountain for 3 days that floods the property and then seeps into the drywall, and then you've got just
and it goes
nasty.
into your floorboards and the carpet, and then you get mold in places that you didn't have it before, and there's just a lot that can go on with water. It's amazing.
Right. No, I think that's been my experience in 25 years of doing this, that the water damage is, I've been just amazed at some of the claims we've had just based on water damage. Can you speak at all about the threat of mold? We clearly hear that all the time, and the importance, I guess, of getting that cleaned up as quickly as possible.
I can't speak a lot about the mold, but what I can say is that when you have it, it will grow and it keeps spreading. And so if you don't get rid of it, we had a lady call yesterday. She's having serious health problems because they found mold in her house, and she's got asthma and she's got some serious mold going on. So of course we were out there right away and got that taken care of. And I don't really speak a lot about it because I don't understand a lot of what the mold spores do and all that, but it's a big issue, especially if it's found. It needs to be remediated right away, obviously, so it doesn't spread and start damaging your flooring and your carpets and all that.
Right. No, I think most of us are a little bit surprised when you think about it historically. What mold was something in the bathroom that you cleaned up, kind of thing, but it's certainly become quite the health risk for those that are allergic to it, and has a serious. There's a rather serious nature to it, and the importance of identifying it and cleaning it up and getting it out of the property. That's important. Just looking here on some of the information we're going to make available to the listeners. Mm-hmm. Is there anything? I mean, we've kind of talked about what the pre-assessment, kind of when it happens, the relationship between the company and the insured and the insurance company, the Servpro. Is there any kind of like a high-level recommendation that you can give to listeners as far as some way to summarize this for?
About?
Well, I'm just trying to think of is there something we didn't cover that you feel like we should have that you would have liked to have covered?
I think we've covered pretty much everything. We just we want listeners to be prepared in case of an emergency. They can call us anytime, and we'll come out and do these emergency-ready profiles for free. We just schedule a time, and again, it's not anything that if they have an emergency, they have to call us. They can use whoever they choose. We just want everybody to be prepared. I mean, we're in earthquake country, and obviously we had a horrible winter. We had so many ice dams and floods, and if you wake up one morning and all of a sudden there's water coming through your walls because you had an ice dam, you just need to know what to do and who to call. That's the biggest thing, is just preparedness. And I don't think that Portland in general is as prepared as they could be.
Yeah. No, I think that's the understatement of the winter, isn't it? I think, but I think also to Portland's defense, I think the history has shown that by 10 o'clock, most of our winter storms are gone, right?
Right, yep, that's true.
This winter has proved that not to be the case. Hey, one thing, I want to ask this because I meant to ask it earlier. Can you speak at all to the difference between a restoration contractor as opposed to a new construction contractor?
What we do as a restoration company is we will go into the home and put everything back the way it was. We believe in restoring rather than replacing. If we go in and your carpet is damaged and your walls are damaged, we will do what we can to save that carpet and to dry it out so that you don't have to replace it, and dry it out so there's no mold growing underneath, and make sure the wood underneath is also dry. So I think that's the biggest difference, is we believe in restoring your property instead of replacing, and it keeps the cost down for the homeowner and for the insurance companies. That's why they like to use restoration companies, because we're not just about replacing everything. We're trying to save everybody some money when they need to, and then your insurance rates hopefully don't go up.
Right. Well, and it is a different starting point. Restoration as opposed to demo and rebuild everything. I think people, again, not being in the construction business all the time, don't understand the difference, and it is clearly a different skill set than just demo and rebuild kind of thing. So that's great. Well, Marla, I've appreciated you taking the time to do this.
Of course.
And you want to give the listeners your best way to get in touch with you, and we'll remind them that we've got also this handout available to them on some emergency-ready profile questions.
Absolutely. Our telephone number here is 503-777-9739. You can ask for me. Again, my name is Marla, or Daniel, or the owner, Gabby, and anybody can get this done for you. We just want to be prepared, and we don't care where you are. If you're in our territory or not, we'll come to you just to know that you're covered in case of an emergency. So.
Great. Well, again, thank you for taking the time, and we'll look forward to doing this again soon.
Great. It's good to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Like I always tell my clients, my insurance clients, I hope you never have to use your insurance. It's not because it doesn't work, but it's because you have a problem. And the insurance will help, but you still have a problem to deal with, and it's one you didn't have before the problem happened. So within kind of conversation we had here with Marla, a little bit of preparation can go a long way to minimizing your downtime and your loss and your frustration. So be sure to download the emergency ready profile that Marla provided. Servpro is a nationwide firm. So wherever you are listening, if you're looking for a relationship with a disaster restoration firm, be sure to consider Servpro. You can reach out to Marla. Her contact information is in the show notes. And one more thing, as always, I want to invite you to connect on social media. If you're on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, go ahead and reach out to me. It's J. Darren Gross. That's the letter J, Darren, D-A-R-R-I-N, Gross, G-R-O-S-S. And if you're on LinkedIn, be sure to check out our group, Commercial Real Estate Pro Network. It's a great place to network with like-minded commercial real estate professionals. So reach out and let's connect, and let's go on here. Well, that's all we've got for this week. Until next time, thanks for listening to Commercial Real Estate Pro Network's CREPN Radio.
You're listening to CREPN Radio for influential commercial real estate professionals. For more information on this or any of our guests, like us on Facebook, CREPN Radio.